Everybody's just sitting there with bated breath.
Waiting.
I'd like to welcome you all to this special meeting of the Sustainability Advisory Board on Thursday, September 8th. Thank you all for making yourself available this evening, since it's not our regularly scheduled time. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and Brandon, can you call the roll, please?
Sure can. Eric DeGroot. Here. Pat Dwyer-Helquist.
Here.
Lisa Marone.
Here.
Vic Oliver.
Here.
Ken Osmond.
Here.
Bob Peschel.
Here.
Brad Spambauer.
Here.
Aaron Wojciechowski.
Here.
Margie Davy.
Here.
Great.
That's awesome. We got a full house. We should get a bonus for that, right? Approval of minutes is next. Would anybody care to make a motion? This is from July because we did not have our August meeting because we didn't have quorum. So approval of the minutes from July 18th, which was also a special meeting.
I move that we approve them.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the minutes from July 18th? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. We also need to elect a new vice chair. Our previous vice chair that was elected last year is no longer on the board, so we do need to replace her. Would anybody care to make a nomination for a vice chair?
I'll nominate Brad Spandauer.
I would nominate Lisa Marone.
Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, so Commissioner Bob
You gave me that face like you were
has
unsure.
nominated Brad. And Commissioner Vic. Who'd you nominate?
Lisa Marone.
Oh, okay.
Okay, then I have to ask if,
You want this?
yeah, do you,
Don't mind my chicken scratch.
official stuff, okay.
Yeah, so I think you go from, here.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Come on, we got some more people here. Okay, for the third and final time, are there any other nominations for vice chair? Okay, then the first vote will be for closing nominations. So all those in favor of closing the nominations at this point, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, it did carry. Nominations are closed. And, now the secretary will call the roll for the election of vice chair, so you're going to want this back.
Is that me now?
Nobody knows.
This has gone much more official since the last time we did this.
All right, so we have 2 nominees.
We do. We have Lisa and we have Brad.
So if there's more than one candidate, the first vote is on a closing nomination. All those.
Keep going down.
Okay. Okay, so you have to announce if you would want one or the other when I call your name.
Can we ask to
Jesus.
explain their background and if they want the position or not?
I suppose I would be okay with
Sure,
that.
that would be fine. Brad, why would you be interested in serving as vice chair of the Sustainability Board?
I would be honored to serve as vice chair, just given my background, but I would certainly wholeheartedly support Lisa serving as vice chair in my stead. So I'm happy to withdraw or sort of have my nomination pulled.
Concede?
Yes. I'm happy to
Okay.
concede.
Thank you, Brad. I know you're a busy man, and I did learn some things under you and my time at UWO, so I appreciate that. And this is just something that I would like to learn more about and participate in the community, give some good feedback to this board.
Thank you. So now I think all we have to do is have an official vote for Lisa. So it's an A or nay vote now.
Yeah, pretty much. Because if you're conceding and withdrawing your nomination, then it would just be one person. So motion to close nominations and elect Lisa Marone as the vice chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, there we go.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank
We have
you.
a new vice chair. Okay, I'm going to leave now. No.
Not yet.
Whatever.
Okay, the next thing on our agenda tonight is the NOMO May report.
Yeah, I'll bring that up on the computer here. Just give me 1 second. That way it's
Like
available.
behind me, right?
It'll be behind you.
Cuddle?
Well, I can't roll because
You gotta pick. Okay.
I guess I can kind of start before it comes up on the computer. So basically, this report was written by, I think, community development staff, and it was presented at a council meeting back in July. It's essentially a bunch of different data related to NOMO May. If anybody has any questions, I can try to answer them. I don't know if we need to necessarily go through it. As some of you know, because we kind of discussed this, 655 properties registered for NOMO May. We've discovered that maybe 50 of those were outside of the city, but elected to sign up anyway. You know, we didn't have parameters in the software to negate who signed up. Again, this report just kind of talks about how many violations there were. There was an uptick in violations, but there was also an uptick in people who potentially participated too. So those may correlate. There may have also been others taking advantage of the opportunity to not mow. So, you know, there's a couple different scenarios that could potentially be present. Again, if you have any questions regarding the report or anything, and you can ask me now or email me later, and I'll do my best to get the answers for you.
I have some comments.
Sure, go ahead.
So, it sounds like the nature of the report was to discuss if there was any non-compliance. That would be like the major subject of, other than saying this many people participated, but this many people, which was fairly low, were non-compliant in mowing after a certain date. So, do you think that's a pretty good assertion?
I would say that, yes, it's addressed. It's addressed in the report.
Okay, so, and I guess what I feel like the report is missing, and since NOMO May was initiated by the Sustainability Advisory Board, there should have been some outcomes related, some sustainability outcomes related to the report. Not just necessarily the ones that didn't comply with mowing the lawn after that day. It's great to know how many people signed up, but really, NOMO May was initiated as a pilot of the Sustainability Advisory Board, and so there should have been some full views of how did it help sustainably. You know,
Yeah.
what was its intent to do? How many communities across the country were doing this, and how do we think that we contributed to those, those goals and outcomes?
Yeah, I think there's potentially data that's currently being formulated, right,
Okay.
from the overall effort of NOMO May, right, from that professor at
Yeah.
Lawrence University.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten that data. We shared with them all of the addresses that signed up so they could, you know, kind of plot those
Sure.
and do with whatever, I don't know. You know, it's tough for me to grasp exactly how they come up with the data of bee,
Yeah. No, I get it.
bee and butterfly, transportation, but the more migratory data. But that is something that they've done in the past that they talked about. So, I mean, that would be something
Yeah, no,
potentially could be useful.
I think it's really good to incorporate that because, again, this was a project of the Sustainability Advisory Board. And again, my concern becomes that this report was probably initiated by non-compliance, which is the exact opposite of what the intention of this board wanted out of this, was to create compliance and also to create greater biodiversity, in our community. And I guess that just takes, the combination of, communicating what our goals and wants are as a Sustainability Advisory Board and somehow melding that into what the council wants and what community development wants to communicate as well. I don't have a problem with them communicating this information. It's just that there should be a broader picture of what was meant to be captured.
Well, and to be fair here, what we're seeing is what was given by the city manager to the council. But you're quite right, they gave what they're used to dealing with, which is statistics. And we weren't counting bees or butterflies, unfortunately, because how do you do that? I'd love to count butterflies all
I think
day.
you'd need to get help from a biologist
Yeah.
Yes.
to do it. I don't think it's difficult to do, but you'd need help from a field biologist or something, which maybe is something worth considering, or, I don't know if that expertise is around in Oshkosh or not. I don't know.
Well, and
Yeah,
I
it's the
don't,
continuation of letting everyone know about No Mow May too, right? We feel like we did a way better job this year than last year communicating what the rules were, how to sign up, what it's for in comparison to the year before. But there were still clearly individuals that didn't know that it was happening, didn't know that you needed to sign up. So,
Yeah.
and again, there's only so many ways for us to try to get that message across.
Now, it looked like from the graph there that there were May violations, and I'm assuming that's people who didn't mow their lawn but didn't have a sign up. So were they allowed to go to register and get a sign put up in May if they were called?
Oh, a sign was not required. Remember, we only received about 100 signs and 655.
So this year, the sign was not required.
The sign was never required.
Oh, it was just encouraged.
The registration was required this year.
Oh, the registration. Okay, so if somebody didn't register and therefore they had a violation because they let their grass grow too long without being registered, were they given the opportunity to register, or did you have to register beforehand?
Well, so the season, there was probably no real violations present.
Well, there it is on that chart. What are the violations due to?
So we have May cases. A case
Right.
is the creation of something when a violation is
Right,
present.
I understand that, and then there are some May violations, the red bar, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
It looks like 60.
So yeah, I'm not sure how many. Let's see here. Violations. The violation
Like
wasn't
60,
corrected after the
70.
follow-up.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wondered if, it would make sense to me that you maybe just say you're not registered, will you register? But I don't know.
I'm not sure if that happened.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yep.
for future years, that might be something to consider, if they continue with it.
doesn't add up.
Because in terms of what they're doing with their property, it's no different, It's
Yeah.
just a matter of maybe not being aware of the need to register.
I think something that we can learn from this is that if we do this again, and I hope we do, that first of all, the Sustainability Board should have it on a agenda like in February to go ahead and get the permission, because we were very late this year. That would give the city and the Sustainability Board more
Time
time
to
to
think it
communicate it to the public.
Right.
And to let the public know that they need to sign up, because that was something new. And I'm not saying that this happened at my house, but let's just say if it had, maybe we didn't mow all May and didn't realize until like May 10th that we needed to sign up, and
Or
it was
June 10th.
close, or,
Didn't mow all of May. Got to June 10th is maybe what you meant.
no, I meant
Oh,
May 10th.
Okay.
In the middle of the month. when
I
it's
tried, well, and then theoretically, somebody could have then gone on the website to try to sign up, and it was closed. You couldn't get in.
Oh, it was closed.
So there were
Yes, by May
issues
1st.
with, yes.
Oh, okay.
There were issues with how it was handled that need to be rectified if we're to try it again. So it's good that we get this feedback to the people who need to hear it before it happens again, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a grace period. I think they left it open for like a week. May 7th, I think, was what the deadline was. And then there was a couple days after that when the website had closed down where we received phone calls and
Oh.
we did sign a couple people
People up
up.
over the phone.
Well, we just logged into the spreadsheet and signed them up. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And but there had to be a deadline, at some point. So
And all the cases are if the city doesn't go around checking, the cases would be people calling or filling out a form with the city saying, "Well, my neighbor's lawn is too long." right?
the majority of violations are complaint based.
Okay, Yeah, because I don't think the city has the staff to drive around
No.
looking at everybody's property,
Correct.
right?
Brad, what are you thinking?
I'm looking at the data, and in 2020, May cases, May violations, June cases, June violations are very similar. And in 2022, June cases and violations are much higher. And I think sort of to what maybe Brandon was alluding to earlier, I wonder if the positive spin of Nomo May is also being perceived by some as an opportunity to call out, right? You know, if it's June 1st at 12:01,
Correct.
can I call on my neighbor, right? Like, are we seeing an increase because of general greater awareness, both positive and negative?
Essentially. And again, the May one for 2021 there's nothing there because how we did it that way was
just
there were-
totally.
Was our data collection the same method throughout the 3 years? Be the
Well,
first
again,
question.
May, it was just a suspension of the ordinance.
No, our data collection about how we,
Yes.
saved all the data. So
Same
for the 2
program.
years, okay.
Yep.
There was no registration until '22, though, right?
Correct. Yep.
And that took a number of people by surprise.
Yeah. Hence maybe the uptick in
June.
June violations.
But also, more people participated.
Sure.
I mean, there
Just
was
got bigger sample size.
exactly.
So
So,
again,
and
I
really,
think-
that would only be between 21 and 22. 2020, there was none. So,
I'm curious why 4 of the 66 properties that were cut by streets had registered for no May.
okay, so that means that no mow May finished, and
Uh-huh.
then they didn't mow their lawn.
In June.
Then they were in violation.
And went to
And
the
would've-
point that streets needed to take
Correct.
care of it.
And there
Okay.
was 66 of them that did that, but that means that 62 of them cut their lawn
So
in time.
Got
do
it.
we know the occupancy data of those properties that ended up not cutting?
You mean if they're
maybe-
owner occupied or
Or,
rentals?
Yeah, owner
Yeah,
occupied
there-
or
there's the
rentals.
chart
Says on
where
there.
it
Does
says, yeah, it
it's-
says 10% abandoned or
Of-
foreclosed.
Yeah,
But
of the
that's not of
66
the
properties,
4.
I'm talking about of the
Just the 4.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Oh, just the 4. Oh,
That would be interesting to know.
Yeah.
I would see value added in that data.
So I guess what I think we should do is see what our takeaways are from this that we can recommend for next year for improvement. Obviously, more education is needed and earlier
Earlier.
notification.
And I think timing's the biggest thing here. I'm looking here. Oshkosh home sales in the month of May were up, in June they were down, in July they skyrocketed. So I'm wondering if having properties in transition contributed to lawn maintenance issues for homeowner occupied. Then you have to consider the fact that without advance warning, you have college students leaving between the 12th and the 14th of May. And if they elected, hey, I got finals, it's no mow May, I don't have to listen to my landlord and mow the lawn, it's not going to be mowed till that residence is occupied, if that's a condition of rental. So you're looking at a lot of different forces
Lots of
impacting.
variables.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only way to stem that is to be earlier on in the,
More proactive.
yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of it being on the agenda either in January or February to touch base again, because I think we got to it, like you said, very late. It was
Yes,
kind of a rush.
kind of too
It
late.
felt rushed from the board, I feel.
It was
the other
rushed.
thing, then, and I don't know if it's appropriate, it's a no mow May, but it's worth thinking about, I think, is, the purpose of it was an increase in pollinator-friendly habitat, and that might be the time to also talk to people about other aspects of pollinator-friendly, rather than just letting your lawn grow,
Yeah.
Well, so people understand what the advantages are and so your neighbors understand.
But no,
Right, but
I'm
to
saying
her
in
point, like,
terms of
how do you
encouraging
sustain
native
that
plants,
pollination?
encouraging
Oh,
native
I
plants,
see what you
planting, and other aspects of, what you do to support pollinators.
Or
It's
maybe,
not just letting
like,
your grass grow.
Having some type of system where I was walking downtown on Division and they had bump outs that have native pollinators, like recognizing people or rental owners who do that, and just
Right.
like, hey, look, over in this section of Oshkosh, we have this pollinator-friendly area.
Right, it's not just letting the grass grow, it's doing additional plantings, yeah.
Yeah, that's a continuation of the message that needs to go out to people. Don't just let your grass grow, plant.
Correct. This is step one in a much larger process.
Yeah.
All right, like I said, if any questions come up from this and you want me to look further into some certain statistic, I can try, such as the 4.
Yeah, I think that might be valuable for the group, but otherwise, biggest takeaway is just be more proactive.
Yes, and it all comes down to communication like everything else in the world, right?
Sure does.
Remind me, how were the signs distributed?
We got 100 from Israel.
Not for,
Oh, sorry, from Professor Del Toro. How's that?
Okay.
that's better.
I was like,
And I think he made 5,000.
Yeah.
oh,
So, and I guess the other thing too, you know, is to, you know, like if we're gonna do a report, like it's great that we're gonna calendar it so that we know that it gets approved in a timely fashion. But I think that direction from this board too also is needed to indicate that they want to be part of the creation of a report related to No Mow May, so that we can get a well-rounded display of what took place. I don't mind the content of this data being there. I just think it's out of place in regards to the full picture of No Mow May. And then the other thing I would do, and I don't know if this is you, Brandon, or if maybe it's one of us reaching out to Professor Del Toro in regards to creating that connection of data and greater the increase of biodiversity more in our community, or if we want to do that locally to someone at UW Oshkosh that can help us formulate that information and that connection as well. But I think that's just to kind of to continue to hit on to that point. This report is great. Let's just make it as well-rounded as possible.
Are those signs going to be available next year? Do we know?
We basically told people as we handed them out that
I
we
still
got-
have
we-
mine.
yeah, we got these for free. Keep them for next year. Don't throw them away. If you don't want to participate next year, please bring them back. I haven't gotten any back. So,
Okay, I was just thinking that if the opportunity arises to modify those, to sharpen the message a little bit as well and educate.
well, we considered this year, I looked into a bunch of the different yard sign manufacturers in the city and got some numbers because we were considering purchasing our own and then being able to like maybe have a QR code that had the sign up on it where you could,
okay.
you know, something like that. Or even just make some stickers that we could put on the existing signs. But that was a big expense for Professor Del Toro, and it was very kind of him to give us those 100.
I know that there's lots of public service announcements that go out with like quarterly mailings. And so, and maybe we don't even do that anymore because I, you know, access my water bill online now. But do we still send out quarterly bill, like water bills and stuff like that?
I wouldn't know either.
Monthly water bills. So there used to be a calendar, a schedule of what would go out with those.
Okay.
And it might be good to put this out with, you know, with those bills as a way to inform people that they have to, they want to be involved in it, to send out a flyer that says, here's how you sign up.
I think similar to the SALT kind of education, maybe a very early spring one could be sort of a No Mow May prep
Even a pollinator,
correspondence.
I shared a half an hour.
pollinator info, this is
Yeah.
why. Yeah. And we might want to see if we can find a sponsor to create our own lawn signs. I know they're expensive, they're not that expensive, but they are expensive.
Yeah.
And then do it as an adopt a sign program where,
Oh, sure.
so you know you have the sign and you just keep it in your garage until it's May and you put it back out. They take no space at all against the walls. So.
Yeah. One thing I would just bring up quickly is the number of follow-up inspections. It looks like basically doubled between 21 and 22. 167. And then there were 323 follow-up inspections from violation notices that were sent out.
Yep. So what that means is we have an initial inspection, and then we have a follow-up inspection. So that typically would occur, I don't know what, 5 or 7 or 14 days after. What's the question exactly?
Just noting that it says this results in staff time to complete the inspection and process proper documentation. If that's like a, sounds like that might be a hardship, right? Sort of
Correct.
adding all of this time.
Yes.
Again, perhaps there is a way to mitigate that with just, again, kind of proper education and perhaps even just sort of letting people know, like, your neighbor has until June 6th to, mow their lawn, so please do not waste the city's time by calling. I think for all parties involved.
Yeah, again, so those wouldn't have been sent out, right, until June something.
Yeah, it says.
And that means that they didn't,
June 6th.
wow.
They didn't
My-
mow.
Yeah, well, my opinion between 2021 and 2022 is that there was potentially way more people participating. And that just means that there was that many more people who didn't mow at June. And if it doubled again next year, that number may double again.
Yeah.
Unless we
You know-
do
and you
some
know what
more
I mean? It's-
education.
Do the people who registered, do they get like a reminder email saying time to cut your lawn, people?
We don't have emails for everybody.
That may be
register,
something
you
we
know.
want to consider, though,
Oh, you're saying from the sign-up list?
when they
Yeah,
sign
from the
up,
sign-up
yeah.
list. Yeah,
Oh.
from the sign-up list, if you had.
Like
their
on the
emails, you could-
31st or
Yeah, that's a good-
28th
We
or
We didn't
whatever.
do that.
You know.
That's a
just
good
like-
suggestion, like I-
Like the library sends me a notice telling me to turn my books back in.
There
Right.
you go.
Or even a text message. you
Or a
know,
text message,
If
yeah.
there's some type of
Yeah.
auto texting program that we
Right.
can
I mean,
just,
it asked for email to sign up,
I think it
so I
was just
think
email
that's,
and address.
Emails or text, a lot of people don't check their email.
But no, that's
I
a good
guess, but-
idea. We could
but one way
email
of
everyone.
saying
yeah, like
time
a
to cut
week
the lawn,
prior
we're
or
done.
something, like, hey, thank you for your participation. As a reminder, the expectation going forward, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
We'll have you
I
write that
digress.
one.
Yeah,
and then
more than
even-
happy to.
And then even if you have to do, let's say that cuts your field inspections by half,
Yeah.
and you go out and you check out all those ones that didn't do it, I know our goal is to automatically, get those lawns taken care of. But send out another email that says, hey, beginning of next week, we are clearing your lawn, the program is over, and such, but just like a series of, emails, because it makes it less, I know we want compliance,
Right.
but it makes it seem like we're being less punitive, less punishing.
No, the email is a great idea. I really like that idea a lot.
And it costs you
Nothing.
or staff nothing to send out an email, right?
No.
Very little.
Yeah.
If you automate
time,
it, if
but
you
yeah.
automate.
Okay, then. So is there anything else anybody wanted to add about that? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go on to the weed cutting and lawn care ordinance for our native plants. And we do have, as I understand it, Brandon, this is now city approved for,
This is basically the final draft. All of the departments that would need to look it over have looked it over. It's approved by the attorneys. This would be what the ordinance would be if you guys decided to approve it today. This was done, I think, for the last meeting as well, but we didn't have quorum, so this has been kind of just sitting for a month.
yeah, it's the
I can
same
go
thing.
through it a little bit if you guys remember. There's been a couple different revisions.
Yeah,
Pat, you
it looks like
submitted-
a lot of work went into this.
Yeah, and I hope that there's some things that got added that you guys like. So the first section is just kind of a repeated of the 1744. It defines noxious weeds. I'm gonna just breeze through this a little bit.
Can I ask?
Oh,
Sorry.
sure, go ahead.
Because I looked at the state statute,
Uh-huh.
and are we, do we have the authority, the city of Oshkosh has the authority to add to this list, correct?
That's what the state ordinance says.
That's
yeah.
what the state
Yeah.
ordinance says. So, and I guess my question is that in the future, not now, do we want to define how a noxious weed can be added to this ordinance.
So the problem is that there's no arborist that is going to go out and
Define that.
and
for you.
define
Find
these
that.
things,
Or
right?
a weed commissioner.
Which is essentially someone from
Sure,
inspections.
okay,
I guess the DNR has the expertise.
sure,
And,
okay.
and I don't know if there'd be anything that would show up in Oshkosh that doesn't show up in the rest of it,
Okay.
but maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine. I guess I just was wondering if there was gonna be a process to that. We don't have to
Yeah.
spend a lot of time on it.
Okay, I mean, it's something you guys can definitely think about in the future if you're trying to add something that's not defined in that Wisconsin statute.
Okay.
Okay, so owner's responsibility, I think that was similar to the prior ordinance. Uncut growth, that's again talking about just what the penalty is. I did get clarification, because it does talk about imprisonment, as you had.
Right, well, yeah.
At one point, the city attorney assured me that no one will ever be imprisoned from a citation or failure to pay a citation for grass cutting.
Okay, so that.
Thank you for
that's
checking
just
that,
gonna be
Brandon.
Yeah, I
in
did.
case. So,
It was
okay.
aggressive.
Okay, this next spot, exemptions, this is a completely new section that was added. So all of these things listed, 1 through 7, are exempt from needing to be cut.
Okay,
They don't require any type of special landscaping plan. They are just natural areas that don't need to be cut. So, for instance, if you think about like Sawyer Creek, if you lived that first 50 feet of Sawyer Creek, it's pretty elevated. You wouldn't have to cut that. Only example I can think of currently.
It was great.
Appointment of the weed commissioner, that was kind of a cleanup item. We were supposed to have that in there anyway. And then we get into the meat and potatoes of the native landscape areas. So this is, again, there's some new stuff in here. We talk about why, we define what it is. So this was something that we went back and forth on a couple times. You know, it says to be known as a maintained prairie or meadow. Again, it's really the difference between a regular lawn or planting some native plants and turning your lawn into something different than a normal manicured lawn.
And just
Not-
because it says prairies and meadows doesn't mean that there can't be trees present, correct?
Right. And the other thing that we talked about is, doesn't mean like if you just have a garden, again, a typical garden, not a whole yard garden, that would be exactly what we're talking about. If you just had, your normal 12 by 12 garden and it was all full of native plants, you don't need to do this either. It's for a
you don't have
vast.
to cut down your black-eyed Susans.
I don't
That's a
know.
native flower.
Okay.
that
No, you do
lots
not
of people
need to.
have.
You would not
in this
need to cut-
town. If
no.
you drive around Oshkosh, there's lots of those around town.
Sure.
Yes, there are.
You would not need to cut that down if it was in your
Okay.
garden. So I hope that that's clear, that we've
Yes.
tried our best to define
More
what this
talking
really
about
is really
a
for.
grassy area
Yes.
that may have flowers in it, but you're, yeah, okay.
This talks about the process of what a landscape management plan is and how you go about creating one and where it's supposed to go to. That's section C.
And under C, I would just like to point out under C2, where it says what's found in section 30254, that is 8 pages worth of classification of plant species, and that was added to the zoning code mostly for commercial buildings and how they gain points for landscaping as something's being built. But it's also a really excellent guide for anybody who's not especially familiar with what may be native to the area or may not be. And
And it also says that it's not all-inclusive or something, if I can.
And it has also been, or is in the process of being updated, so it will include more information.
Yeah, there was just an amendment to it to add more plants.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, it says the list is not intended to be exhaustive. If you really want, you'd look at something like the USDA database to find out what things are native in our area and what aren't. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's
Yeah.
native to our area that's not on that list, but it does say it's not meant to be exhaustive.
but basically what this does is it would give somebody who is interested in creating their own prairie or meadow, some guidelines to start with. So there's a place to go at the city to find that.
Yep.
And we should probably also, what do I want to say? Encourage the city to take those pages and put them into a condensed little pamphlet or something too, that's easy to hand out. I would like to see that happen.
It would also be good to reference the USDA database, which is online, which lets you search for things, and it tells you if it's native or introduced, and it shows you where in the country it's native, so
Okay.
you can look it up on your phone, but so it's a very useful thing in terms of figuring out what's native to your area, because there's lots and lots and lots of things that are.
There are some things that are native to our area that are asked not to be planted within the city, though.
Right, but
And-
this list doesn't exclude things. It says it's not an exhaustive. The heading to the list says it's
No,
not exhaustive.
what I'm saying, Patty, is that this classification of plant species will also say, please don't plant this particular type of tree.
Right, sure,
Right.
sure. But it also says that just because something's not on this list doesn't mean you can't plant it,
Right.
so.
Yeah, it's not all encompassing.
Right, that's what it
Yes,
says on the
yes.
heading, yep.
Okay, so moving on, again, that's, section C is just really how do you create a management plan and what it means and where you submit it and stuff like that. The D is the appeal process, for instance, if you for some reason were to get denied or you were not managing your landscaped area appropriately, then you maybe would have a revocation, and that talks about how you would appeal that revocation. And that's it. What do you guys think?
I think it's much improved. And I like the fact that it has the exemptions and that it's clarified that it's aimed at more meadows and things that you need to have the designation and the plan. The one thing that I've been trying to sort out is something that I think is more than it was when I was a kid, at least, is people use these decorative or ornamental grasses. You see them, just driving here from my house, which is maybe a couple miles, I saw some in front of a church, I saw some in front of a small business on Murdoch, I saw some in front of McDonald's, I saw some on Main Street. And some of them are native grasses, some of them are not native grasses, and they tend to grow in clumps. But if you read this, somebody who has that planted on their property should be getting a designation. So is there any way of exempting those? You're talking about somebody maybe has 3 or 4 clumps of these grasses that are growing, or maybe half a dozen of these clumps of grasses, and you see them all over the place,
Yeah, so again, if it's
So-
just normal landscaping, no big deal. But
So-
if it's only when you decide to turn
the whole lawn.
your lawn into, or a large section of
of
your
your
lawn.
So is there
into-
any way to indicate that in the ordinance or not? Because it really doesn't, so they don't really, the director of parks really doesn't want McDonald's calling him and say, can we keep our grasses that are in front, our tall grasses that are in clumps in front of our property, or there's a church on Main Street that has that too on their property. The director of parks doesn't want to hear from them, right? Doesn't want to have to give them. So is there any way of indicating that, so that if it's less than a certain area, or if it's certain kinds of decorative grasses or something, or not? Because it just says grasses. you
Yeah,
know.
any grasses, weeds, brush, or other rank or offensive vegetation which has
Yeah.
grown over 8
So,
inches.
And
those grasses
probably
tend
you're
to be
unlikely to
2,
have
3
somebody
feet.
complain about these, and, some of them are native, some of them are not native. A lot of the stuff on Main Street is those fountain grasses. Some of the other ones, I'm not sure if they're native or not. The fountain grasses aren't native, I'm pretty sure, but some of the other ones, I'm not sure if they're native or not. The library has them,
It seems to me though, Pat, unless it's the entire lawn that they're trying
but
to
is there
do
some
this
way to
with.
indicate that in the
Doesn't
code?
it
That's what I'm trying
does
to
it-
say.
But does it need, yeah,
Does
doesn't
it
it
say that?
already?
Where does it say that? That's what I'm trying, I didn't see
Under
it.
the definition of native landscape area.
Okay, so that overrides the thing about noxious weeds include any grasses that are over 8 inches high then.
Correct. It says that if you were to do a maintained prairie or meadow that contain grasses that are expected to exceed 8 inches, then you would want to do this.
Okay.
Again, if it's just
So-
simply.
And we're assuming that a maintained prairie or meadow is a larger area, that it's not 100 square feet or 50 square feet.
It's
But we
n-
don't want to specifically say that, though, then.
Yeah, the thought from staff was that putting a limit on it would be more of a,
More burdensome.
yeah, I don't know what the right word is, not a deterrent or a burden, but, it would just be not as, it's kind of wide open. There's no setback requirements, there's no
So the
space requirements.
understanding is we're not talking about these smaller areas that maybe have grasses.
Right, like you
That are
plopping
a
a large
couple
ornamental
feet
grass
high.
in a pot is not a
2
problem.
or 3 feet
Correct.
high. But this is on private property, these aren't on parks, these are private property.
I think the thing here is, Pat, that this applies to your entire lawn.
Right, so but I'm not seeing that verbiage
These-
in there. So-
These ornamental grasses, though, don't.
Right, okay, but I was trying to say, can that be clarified or not, or that's just an assumption we make?
I think our opinion is that it is
It
clarified.
is clarified,
Yeah, I
okay,
don't feel
okay,
that
so the
that's needed.
interpretation of it will be, larger areas of the lawn. Okay,
Yeah, if someone was to call and say, my neighbor has all of these grasses that are over 8 inches tall, and we go out there and it's nicely landscaped and it's all grasses over 8 inches,
yeah, they're probably 2 or 3 feet high.
it just would look like normal landscaping. We'd say there's no violation present.
Okay, so
know.
that's how this gets interpreted, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another thing I wanted to point out was under C3C,
Okay.
where it says the dimensioned site plan shall comply with visibility standards. Basically, what they're wanting to do is be sure that if you're on a corner or something where there's,
Yeah,
people have to stop, there's like a 20-foot setback of,
Depends, yeah.
usually,
and I
yeah, from both
understand.
edges,
Yeah,
I
I
think this
understand
way,
the
for the,
reason for that.
they call it a vision triangle.
right,
so
yeah, I
that-
understand the reason for that, yeah. The 30-254 with the list, they do have ornamental grasses on that list for the landscaping, yeah.
And then under number 5, C5, I think seasoned needs an S on the end. I think that got missed.
Tree
Longer
growing
than
season?
3 growing season.
Good catch.
Where is this?
C5.
Oh,
The estimated transition period, which shall not be longer than 3 growing season.
Thank you.
Was
It would have
there,
got caught by someone, Brandon.
is
Not
there,
me.
is there anything else that people are concerned about on here? Okay,
I
well,
think
this is slated for both discussion and action tonight. So if someone would like to move that we accept this as written so that it can be sent on to the next steps of the process.
Council.
Which will be council next.
Maybe, it's section
Or it might be
17. Yeah, but I think it goes straight to council from here.
Okay,
I move to approve, is it just say section
is.
17?
The weed cutting and lawn care.
All right, I move to
1744.
approve the weed cutting and lawn care ordinances.
Seconded.
okay. I assume we have no further discussion on this. So, and we can take a voice vote on this, Brandon, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor of passing this as written?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, look for it, council.
Good job.
Now, we move on to number 7, the sustainability manager position, and discussion on that. And we have several pages on this that are quite encompassing, which is great. I want to thank Ken for putting this together for us. That was a great job, and kind of helped delineate all of the thinking that the other discussion that we'd had when we were floundering, so this is great. This may not be the exact verbiage that ends up going anywhere as far as, being accepted ultimately, but it gives us all a starting point, and it gives us something to kind of create a proposal to the council for, this is what we would like to see. So with that said, is there anything in,
Can Can I make a comment?
Yes, it's yours. You tell me what.
Well, what I did, just so you know, the process I used was I made all the bullet point inputs that the students had put together in their presentation. I listened very carefully to many of the comments that were made in previous meetings about this. Then I started going online and doing research of existing positions. And I pulled principally from the Racine position. But then I wanted to, there were two goals that I had in mind when I was writing this in order to give everyone on the board something to react to was, and just so you know what I was trying to go for here, is I tried to broaden some of the requirements and expectations to be more inclusive of potential candidates, of people in the community and or applicants that may apply. I didn't isolate it strictly down to environmental sustainability. I tried to broaden it a little bit. Also, a big principal thing is that I didn't see this position as simply another bureaucrat. I saw this as more of a mindset. And if you look at the pillars of sustainability, I thought that this position could essentially enable the city to more broadly promote its objectives across those three pillars, because the city is accomplishing things in those three pillars. And so it would be nice to have a person who's more embedded into other operations, trying to look at a broader definition of sustainability. So, and then the third thing is that when I started putting together sustainability manager success scorecard, I was just barfing stuff out on there going, okay, because the theory is that yes, you want to measure for success, but you don't want to measure enforced failure. You know, but I was like, okay, what things do we have to think about? So it was just there for your reaction. That's it. It's not, there's no like scientific legal expertise going into that at all. It's just, well, what do we want to measure? You know, is that too much, not enough? And what are the thresholds? You know, and I try to say you get a threshold, your target for the year as a personal goal as the person, and a goal. Well, what happens if you hit any of those three marks? You know, so it was just a thought exercise purely. So that's all I wanted. Sorry.
Well,
Thanks,
thank
Ken.
you. Really appreciate the clarification on that, and that's exactly what we wanted, was a jumping off point, and that's what you
Right.
gave us, even when you barfed it up.
That provides a huge insight, because I was like looking at 78,000 to 101,000. It's gonna be a really good position.
Again, like Margie said,
Yeah.
right, this is just conceptual.
starting point.
Yeah, starting point, you know, the HR, let's say, for instance, if council did approve a position that, such as this, and it was created and it was in the budget, HR would probably, they may take some of this, right, but they would probably create
Sure.
something that on their own. And hopefully, it would be nice if they incorporated something from SAB, some knowledge from SAB into that, but I can't say they will or won't.
Yeah, the HR consideration has to be consistency among other position
Right.
descriptions and,
Yeah.
yeah.
But like, it was a great way to get the conversation started, and I think it's doing exactly what it was intended to do, so.
Yes, and we greatly appreciate that.
Well, and if I may, I think part of the purpose behind this is, because I think if my understanding is correct, that the goal is to kind of put this in as a additional budget request. And this will help, solidify that support, because oftentimes when we have budget requests for positions, which we do every time, they're not accompanied by a position description or, what their duties are going to be. So I know that's going to be the biggest question when this comes up is, well, what are they going to be doing? Why do we need this? So I think having this will help solve a lot of those issues before we even get there. So.
And notwithstanding, I think some of the bigger philosophical questions is how does this board interact with such a role and vice versa? I think, Margie, you brought up the volunteer dimension of this, which really isn't addressed here necessarily. And for me, I would like to see a very dynamic position that kind of permeates every department. That's kind of a right-hand person to kind of address sustainability issues.
You mean kind of how sustainability permeates everything?
Yeah,
That would be really good, yeah.
you said it better. So, 'cause we want that in front of mind, right? I mean, top of mind when we do anything.
Is it possible to change this name from manager to director? I just feel like when you look at sustainability manager, that makes me think like you're managing people.
Again, it would be, this is conceptual, so like if, for instance, it got approved, it would really be up to probably HR and those individuals what the name would be, but I agree, like it's probably gonna be based really on
the tiers.
where they decide the pay level is gonna be.
True.
Are they gonna label it as a director, but only pay, and it's only gonna pay 50 grand a year, you know what I mean,
Okay.
like,
Gotta figure out the pay scale.
yeah,
However, we do welcome your input like that.
Yeah.
Because we can change it before it goes to council. We,
good point.
yeah, we
As
can.
at least a recommendation.
Yeah, we can make a little
Yeah.
recommendation of change in here and then give it to Aaron to take to council. We are kind of on a time frame with this though, because budget is coming up. It's that time of year when the city starts planning its budget. It's also an excellent time for this to kind of hit the city because of what's been happening on a federal level with some of the funding that's just become available, and will be available for the next couple of years, but we don't really have staffing at the city to go after it. This could take care of that. It's also, I don't know if anybody noticed the article about how the Arctic cap is going to totally disappear and all the river, all the seas are going to rise. This is not hyperbola, We've been saying this for how many years, and now all of a sudden, a few people are starting to believe it. Well, yeah, it's there. We're here. We're flooding everywhere. I had planned to go to St. Louis last week in July, and I'm so glad I didn't. How did I know St. Louis was going to flood? Good heavens, you can't go anywhere or do anything because it's going to burn down, or you have to evacuate, or you're going to flood, or. So anyway, we just have to, it's really time that we do our part here and get Oshkosh really to do something substantial to move the city forward. I mean, we have one of the top universities in the country for sustainability right here in our midst, and then we're kind of not giving that the proper support it should by the surrounding city. So anyway, I'm gonna shut up now. Go ahead, Bob.
Sure, so, I'm glad you gave your description of how you got to this document, because I didn't know that, and I started crossing things off and putting arrows to put things here and there, right, Aaron? So it's pretty developed, and so it made me feel much better that, knowing that it wasn't like a full end, like, this is what we wanna put forward, and it's not terrible, please don't.
No, I mean, again, it was created in a way for you to line things out.
Yep, and I think, and I guess what I want to do is I want to be really supportive of moving this position forward, but I also don't want us to just sit at this table in our own bubble, Sustainability Advisory Board bubble, in creating this position. So I think the next best path is to do a couple levels of reach out, talk to, maybe talk to Kelly Nyforth about the creation of this position, getting her insight. Talk to the human resource specialist manager. Mark too.
Some of this has already been done.
Right.
So you know.
And I guess, and for us to kind of work in tandem with them. So I don't, like, for me, not knowing if this has been if this has been handed on to HR or has been handed on to Kelly or to Mark, but is to put those people or their representatives together with someone from this board to kind of hash out that job description. And I think it'll be accepted a lot more from a budget perspective if we're proposing something that has gone through several departments.
This particular document has not necessarily gone through multiple departments to my knowledge, but everything that's on SAB agenda and material
Yep.
are reviewed by Mark and Kelly at least.
Sure.
I believe Mark Roloff has also seen this document.
But
I
the
know he
reality
has.
is that we haven't had that, they haven't had that input put into this document.
None.
And I think that's the next collaborative point that we need to get to. Because we can sit around this table and build an absolutely awesome sustainability director position. We can do it. But the people that are gonna want to be able to put someone in that role are gonna wanna help define this as well. And that's all I'm getting to. I think it's a great start. I have lots of suggestions, and such, and so since I'm actually proposing that too, I'm more than happy to provide my time, not to take you away from
No.
that, on doing that. But I've been spending the last 3 months working on job descriptions and looking at how to do all of that. So it's fresh in my mind right now. For whatever that's worth.
Yes, I mean, step one, right, would be, we've kind of accomplished step one, I suppose, right? So step
Correct.
two would be a recommendation to council, and then step three will kind of be, I think, on Aaron at council.
What
I
kind
think
of,
I think it's even, step one is this.
Yep.
Step two is that collaborative approach of creating that job description so that when it goes to council,
Well, it's,
Yeah, I
It's
don't think we have
already,
the
it's
time.
scheduled for council
on
already.
what date?
I think, like the next meeting.
Yeah, it's coming up really fast.
right,
It's between now and our
It's-
next meeting.
Aaron, you would know better than I would, actually. Is the next meeting the budget conversations?
Let me look it up.
We were feeling
usually
some
October,
urgency with this, Bob, because of the timing of the different federal
I
things that
understand
are
that.
changing
I
and,
wouldn't know. Our
and our
agenda's not
schedule
up
in the
yet.
city with the budget
we can-
process,
When's the
which of
next
course you
one?
understand.
I get it. I get it.
Next
I mean, but in all reality,
Well,
it's missed
council
a
will be
lot of those budget
the 13th.
conversations.
It'll be next week.
Because all the departments have already made all of their suggestions.
I'm not sure.
This has already
yet,
been
though.
submitted.
It's not,
that way.
yeah.
Got it.
Future agenda.
Okay.
So really, I mean, with the document or without, you guys can still make a recommendation.
Well, I think the notion there is providing the council a really solid foundation of what the benefit of this role is then. It's creating that, you're creating a position highlight of what that is, making sure that that document's ready for them to see, like, here's the greater picture, here's what can be enhanced, here's what can be created for that. And then, I guess still proposing, that kind of working group committee to help create, what the end job description would be. But I think it's really important to have some type of profile of what that job would be for the council.
Take a look on the second page under the full job description where it says position purpose.
yeah, that is a good
That would
paragraph
kind
there.
of offer the benefits of what this position could do, but it could also probably be expanded upon a little bit more.
Well, and the essential functions also help indicate the kinds of things they could do, so, yeah.
Yeah, because there was one element of this, and the reason why I brought the 3 pillars thing up is this city does a lot of great things, either knowingly or unknowingly, for those 3 pillars of sustainability. And having a person measure those and guide that dashboard, or at least be the person who's the central point of collection of that data, so the city can promote that out to its citizenry, is a positive thing. So under the purpose, I didn't include that necessarily, but I mean, the city considers a lot of things for economic, community, environmental sustainability, and just about everything it does. And to have somebody be able to promote that, that purpose wasn't really captured here, but it should be, I think.
Yeah, there's potentially lots of things happening that I'm unaware of, that is not being disseminated even to you guys.
Right, we've tried to make connections, okay, I'm speaking for myself here over the last, what, we figured
Oh.
out. Yeah, a lot of years, whole heck of a lot of years. And there have been attempts to reach out and touch base with all the different committees, all the different departments. We proposed a green team that would include a representative from each department and each committee in the city so that we could know what's going on and could help promote sustainability throughout the whole system. But that's never been something that's been accepted by the city as a need. This could encompass all of that in one person and just make it their job instead of a bunch of volunteers who are able to give, like 4 hours a week or whatever, which is kind of excessive right there, probably. But for some of us, it would be. So this seems to be the route that maybe we could finally get the whole city on the same page and make sure that, I mean, like we made recommendations in our sustainability plan that the people who, the advisory boards even, that they pertain to, don't even know they're there. Or somebody will ask me, well, it says this in your sustainability report, or plan, what have you ever done with it? Well, that's a mighty fine question. It's not that we don't know that needs done, we just don't know if it's getting done because there's not the communication that we need. So I'm like 100% behind this, and Aaron has a question, and you should ask it.
Not a question, just kind of a statement. So in terms of strategy to get this position funded, because it's going to be competing against other positions, so we need to set it apart and, make that urgency. So I think to better help me and kind of better this position, one, I think either a letter that is like endorsed or signed by members of this committee stating basically everything you all said, why we need this position, and maybe even putting, the position purpose, something like that. Giving that need coming from a committee is a lot more powerful than just me. I mean, it will help support in what I say. But I think that's something that, like an action item that the committee could actually do is, putting together their recommendation formally that would go to members, and then having this position basically in its most attractive form. And I know we're going to tell them, well, this isn't what it's going to be finally, but they're going to take it and pick it apart regardless of
Yeah,
that.
they won't hear that part.
Yeah. So if we can have it as attractive as possible and say, this is a starting point, it's going to change, but this is what we're thinking, I think that would make it stand out a lot more than these other positions that are going to be recommended.
Another piece to that is adding in the financial part of like how this person can get grants. This person's collecting data, which will ultimately lead to us getting more grants that we can't get right now because we don't have that data. So I think that's a big piece of it, is having the grant administration in there somewhere.
On the last page of that has levels of
Oh, okay.
self-funding.
Okay.
Yeah, the self-funding, that would be
Perfect.
huge.
Yeah, but I think one of the perspectives that we have to get across to Aaron's point in that letter is how does this position serve as a resource to the other department? I mean, essentially, as the SAB, we're constantly going, what would you do sustainability-wise
And then we'll actually vote.
if you had resources, if you had help? Like,
Yeah, this person could very easily be more on top of some grant or something that's available to specific water treatment plants or something, and,
Right.
and that maybe someone at the water treatment plant isn't aware of. And so then they are
Exactly.
taking care of it, applying for a grant, and maybe it covers a new furnace at a water treatment plant. It could be very specific, right?
We can always
right.
So that, I mean, that there's
the moment of,
way off the wall
as long as
example,
the
but
documents are given to them.
Well, in
ahead of
general,
time
that's,
to review.
we don't apply for a lot of grants because no one has that as time in their job to do it, right?
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's potentially things out there that I'm not aware of, both on the sides of the grants available and potentially other staff employees that are applying for grants that I'm not in the loop
Okay,
about.
but in general, it takes time to write a grant
Correct.
application. and-
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron, did you determine when this goes to council?
I
Yeah,
have a little more experience with it, but I mean, from my understanding, our next meeting is the 13th, but I don't think we're going to be voting immediately to
I think
approve
it's
things.
the 20, is there another meeting on the 27th?
Yeah, the 13th and the 27th.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that I've been told that this has been submitted for the 27th.
Okay.
there's usually two meetings that involve the budget. One is first is like a public hearing of it, and then the next meeting is usually the public adoption of the budget.
And prior to that adoption, we can basically up to the last minute, make an amendment to add this much money for this position. So even if there's not a formal submission, I as a council member, could say, I'd like to make an adoption to add this much for a sustainability manager position. The only thing is, we would want these documents, given to council prior to that, so they would have time to review, so it's not just like, I'm throwing this in at the last second. Because that has happened in the past, where it's just
I
thrown
was
in the
trying
last
to get a
second.
timeline for when we would have to have a letter
Yeah.
ready.
Probably, I don't know.
The 13th?
I mean, we
Yeah.
could have a letter ready
Realistically.
by our next SAB meeting. And,
That'd be after the fact.
That would
Oh,
be-
wait, we're in
We need it.
September. We're thinking October.
That
Oh.
would potentially be too late. I mean, so my
correct.
opinion would be,
Yeah.
Next week.
just to be safe, I think that you guys should make a recommendation either way tonight. And in between now and the next meeting, or decide now who wants to work on a letter, send it to me, and that can just maybe be part of that recommendation. It can be, the recommendation could say, we recommend whatever, in the letter, there's a letter to follow or something like that, right?
to me, there's more than enough time to create a letter and a mock job description as well. I mean, to refine some of those comments in here, some of those items in there, I think can bring a little bit more definition to it, because we want to sell them that there is teeth to the role.
Oh, yeah.
And I think if we can create some type of draft description along with a project kind of description of the benefit. I mean, we could couple it in the sense that hypothetically we're creating an office of sustainability, and there's going to be someone that works in that office. The budget item is to cover the operations of the office, which incorporates staff, right?
And would you be
So,
involved on this?
the bigger picture there of what's going on. Potentially they can take that concept and say, well, no, there's not gonna be an office, but we're gonna put you under planning, on such, but I think we can go twofold. I think there's enough time, collaboratively between us to be able to kind of make that happen, so.
Again, I just look at the calendar. I don't know when those budget dates are, but the next council meeting is the 13th and then the 27th. So I think it would be in your best interest to put something forward just in case. And that can go, if not on the 13th, it could be, a memo on the 27th.
Sure.
But I wouldn't wait until your October 3rd meeting.
And I don't think they have to come immediately at the same time. I mean, if you send the letter saying this is our recommendation, we can always get the position, as long as it's in front of council before I try to make this amendment or make this addition, so they have time to review it, then they'll be more on board with it. But yeah, I think getting the recommendation out first, saying we want this position, and you could even throw in there saying we have an example of a position coming later, so we're at least getting the ball rolling.
Right.
Conceptually, this position request can be put forward without you having to add it, correct?
It could, I believe.
I think it already has.
Right,
Okay.
So we don't need,
We don't actually have to bring it forward, okay.
Yeah, so, and I think, so
Well,
that
we
was
do
the-
need Aaron to go in and advocate for it.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
But not physically asked to
but
add it. It's already
having
been
those
added.
documents support Aaron in being able to do that. So
Right.
that's where you're bringing us back to this, is saying that there needs to be some type of message of support of
Correct.
the creation of this role. So,
Well, given that I still am feeling like we're operating on a very short timeline, I believe that we need to have this done by September 27th or earlier. Let me just propose this and see if this would work for anybody. I know that you have a lot of experience with this, Bob, and you have this to start with, and you've already got a markup started. And I'm pretty sure you said, oh, yeah, I'd be glad to do that. So, as Brad will tell you, when I hear something like that, I go, oh, you all heard that, right? We've got it on tape. So would you be willing to go ahead and take this, like, tomorrow would be soon enough? But then, when you have something made with this, would you also work with Ken and run, if that's okay with Ken, and have the two of you run it past? We can only have two people working on it without going to a subcommittee. So if you two could do that and give that to Brandon, in the meantime, Brandon and I can work together all we want. And maybe we could work collaboratively.
Sure.
Okay, work together,
With
you
the
know?
letter?
Yeah, on the letter, which we could share with, we can email that to people and let you see if there's something you really want changed on it. You could get back to us, but it would ultimately be us submitting the letter from this board without you necessarily having had we wouldn't,
Voting on it or.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. All you could do would
And
be to.
that is part of your role as the chair of the committee to be, the board to be able to do that, so.
Yeah, so then what we would need to do tonight, I believe, is go ahead and make a recommendation that we proceed with, I don't know if clarifying's the word we want, but with outlining the position, with an outline for the position, and also creating the letter,
Project description or
well,
position description,
yeah.
But
whatever that might
in
be.
support
Well,
of,
the
yeah,
benefits.
you want to make sure that they realize we.
You're essentially recommending support, I'm assuming,
Yep.
of a budget enhancement request to fund a new position.
For a sustainability director.
Yes.
So you said it's already been submitted. Was there like an amount that was submitted with it?
I don't know the details. I was
Okay.
just told that it was submitted,
Gotcha.
and I don't even know what exactly that means, to be honest.
And I was told
Wouldn't
the same
either.
thing, Aaron,
Okay.
so I'm pretty sure it's there. Okay, so
Who did you hear that from?
My supervisor.
Mark Lyons told me that.
Okay,
Yes.
that gives me direction.
Yeah. Good point. Okay, so then did somebody want to make a motion like that, whatever it was I just said?
Go ahead somewhere.
I'll make a motion to proceed with our document development plan and timeline for the sustainability, in support of sustainability director position.
Doctor Development. Nice. Tell me that again
It's
later.
not my first rodeo.
Okay,
So I'll send you the Word doc.
Okay,
Soon as
sounds
I-
good.
wait, so we have something on the table? Is there a second? Did I hear a second?
I second it.
Okay, thank you. Can we vote on that?
Sure.
It was,
Voice
it
vote
was
is
listed
good,
as an
right?
action item.
Yeah, it was this,
It is an action item, so yes, we
Okay.
need to vote on that.
I think it was just discussion.
Oh, it was just discussion.
But I was told this morning that a recommendation should be made.
Yes. Okay, so we are making the recommendation, and all in favor of that recommendation?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody in opposition? Oh, good.
There's also some supporting documentation also.
Okay,
There are 6 such job descriptions like this from other
Okay.
cities.
right.
All righty. Then we can move on to our agenda items for a future meeting. We have a couple that are listed here, the marketing flyer for the energy-saving home improvements, which we'll get to eventually. Reviewing the spring 22 student reports. Another thing that I thought of was we need to put on for October, Brandon, we need to get the information out about the Sustainability Award that's given in March, I believe. Is it that one? Yeah, State of the City is. So we need to get that out. The person we were working with at the,
No longer.
yeah, so we need to find out more about that too. Do you want
I
me to
do
do that?
not
or
think
do
that
you-
that person has been replaced. There's,
I've got no notice on that. Have you?
nope.
Okay, I know who we can talk to.
Okay.
I'll make a note.
So for October, we want to have SAB award on there. Like, I'll look at the past agenda.
Yeah.
I think it was SAB nominations or,
Oh, I think it's for sustainable
I'll look at
support
them.
in business and blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
yeah. It's pretty prestigious when you get it, though.
Right, Ken?
Oh, yeah. I got my favorite table at Spago's.
And then we'd said something else, oh, just for future, January or February.
No mow
Oh, yeah.
But
I
in
wrote that down
January or
somewhere.
February. You did. I watched you write it down.
Yeah, I just didn't label it.
I have a
That's
question,
cool.
Aaron.
Yeah.
this is maybe just kind of off topic or back to the item 7, in your opinion, or maybe Bob, you'd have a better understanding about this too. Would it be beneficial for anybody from SAB to be at those council meetings?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, because rarely have we ever had people from the public or even from committees come in to speak in support of like a position or something like that. So,
So it might
I
be
it would just add
something-
more to it.
For you all to consider.
Okay, so when is that?
Well, once the agenda comes out, maybe I can let you guys know when the budget conversation is occurring for those 2 meetings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should be out soon. I think they usually try to post it by either tomorrow or early Monday. Hopefully we'll get on tomorrow.
Okay.
Is there still interest in a native plant brochure? At one time, that was on a list of objectives, and I don't know
Yes.
if no May would be the time to put that out, or?
It probably would before that, so for January or February. Unfortunately, the person who had most of the information on that and was working on it is no longer on the board with us.
Yeah, I know that, yeah.
But we can pick that information up, and work on that, yeah.
Okay, if
Are
I-
you wanting to do that,
Can I
Pat?
email the person who had been working on it to see what is available?
Yeah.
Okay, I can do
So,
that.
so what I heard is you'd like to take that project on?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe.
I know you're all gonna be afraid to recommend anything ever, right?
Is the other thing, would it be possible to consider asking the Common Council to allow hybrid meetings of boards, if boards request them, or is that like a no-go?
So it's actually been on like a agenda item for the last few meetings because it has been brought up, and I think hopefully at our next meeting they're supposed to be giving us options because they've been in the process of kind of just like looking at different options of how we can accommodate that and make that happen. So
Okay, so
To
that's
be
already
determined.
under
yeah,
consideration.
so they're just
So
gathering
watch-
information for us.
Watch the agendas of the Common Council have to do.
The county board has provided its committees and commissions the ability to kind of make that determination along with the time of their meetings as well, as long as it's a majority of that
Board.
board or commission. So,
They do use a different platform, unfortunately, so,
Yeah.
I mean, good for you, good for the county board, but. Okay, is there anything else that anybody would like to see on a future agenda? I have not forgotten that we want to reach out to the recycling people and see if we can arrange a tour at some point. She's more than anxious to come in and speak to us, too. I knew that tonight's meeting was going to be long enough without having a speaker. And then I did hear something else today on the radio that I need to check into, but I think we have another resource that we need to be made aware of, too. So I'll check on that some more. Because I'm making a note to me right now to do that.
So you're making a note to yourself about remind yourself.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
I often send
what
myself a
calendars are for.
text that only has a subject line, you know? Yep. Okay, anything else? In that case, our next meeting will be on October 3rd. And I want to thank you all for coming to this special meeting, and I hope everybody is able to keep Sustainability Board on their calendar on the first Monday for the next 2 months. 3 months? 3 months, yeah. Then January messes us all up again, I know. But,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you guys will maybe want to consider a special meeting in January because January 1st lands on a Sunday, which means staff will have off that Monday, which would be the meeting date.
yeah, we should probably look at all of next year's calendar at once and see if we could just figure that out.
Figure them all out at once. Yeah, that'd be useful.
Well, that way everybody knows way ahead of time and can maybe plan their schedules around that. All right,
At the
and,
same time that we're doing that, we can also calendar certain topics or things that we want the board
Good thinking.
to accomplish throughout the year as well. So we can tie that right to those meeting schedules.
we can
I
do
feel like I
that.
just heard another future topic.
I heard that,
Calendar.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. See, recommendations, wonderful. Okay, does anybody have anything they'd like to say about maybe a motion to adjourn?
I need to move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Can you-